All right, it's another Prime Number Tuesday, and you know what that means. How would you slice that is on again. I'm Lawrence Nightingale, and as always, with me is Vicky Soma. Hello, Vicky.
Hello, Lawrence.
For those of you who don't know our show, welcome. And the what our show is all about is talking about 3D printing, 3D printing techniques. We bring on people who are innovative and interesting in the world of 3D printing for the community to talk about different ways in which they are using the technology, spreading the technology, and also maybe giving a few pointers here and there. Um, as always, this week I'm my lab, my 3D printing lab at Nova. We are getting ready for graduation, and so I've been getting into customizing things for graduates. 2026 is on everything. So I made a coin that had 2026 on one side, and then had the little Nova logo on the other side.
Is it like a maker chip?
It is well, it's not a maker chip, and I wish I had enough time to go upstairs and grab it, but it is a chip actually. Yeah, it is like a maker chip, very much so. It's flat on one side. The other side shows the infill pattern. And the infill pattern, you can put all kinds of colors into the honeycomb for the base, and then all kinds of colors into the 26 Nova graduate. And so we did that. And we're gonna make a bunch of those for the students that work on campus. And then also I made a mortarboard decoration, which had a high school the student is graduating from and Nova on the other, with like chevrons showing we're transitioning to a new stage.
Mm.
So those were really really fun projects to work on, and they came a lot easier than I had anticipated. I guess all of the hair that I lost making maker chips really benefited me with these last few projects. So we've been working on stuff for this timely part, especially when you're in a college. How about you, Vicky? What you been working on?
My stuff isn't that exciting. I mean, it's exciting, but it's not um physical 3D prints.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm on the board of 3D Printopia, and we're ramping up for our event in September. So I've been doing a lot of invoicing, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
helping with website updates. And if there's anybody here that's watching and you're interested in being a sponsor and exhibitor for 3D Printopia, but you want to learn a little bit more about it, we are doing a series of Q&A sessions this summer. The first of which is going to be tomorrow night, Wednesday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have questions of what's entailed with loading in, loading out, electricity, and just like what to expect with the event, just go ahead and email info@3dprintopia.com, and we'll get you on one of those Zoom calls and hopefully get you up to speed with what will the event will entail.
Wow, that's great. That's great, and really giving people plenty of time to really get themselves involved, get themselves informed, and find out how it is they can contribute or what they can bring, or and how big they can pack stuff. I suspect that most people will be driving, given that flying has gotten a little bit pricey, but that's great. That's great. We're looking forward to that meeting tomorrow. One other thing that I discovered is that my college has Autodesk on a virtual desktop. And so last week I tried to do a little bit of designing on Autodesk, but the lag is insufferable. So so I'm still trying to find my advanced design home, and actually I'm thinking that this week's guest might actually help to
Yeah.
influence me pretty tremendously.
Might nudge you towards the blender camp, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
is
See,
that my little segue
yes, it
for
is.
introduction? All right. So, about tonight's guests, we talk about slicers a lot on this show, but what about bucking the slicer altogether? And
Mm.
our guest tonight is doing just that, using a combination of geometry nodes and custom design assets and an add on with a really good name called Nozzleboss. He uses Blender to design and export his own custom G code to bring his creations to life. And because he's controlling the tool head. He's not bound to layers like the rest of us. So he's
Wow.
pulling off some impressive non-planar designs and some really like jaw-dropping overhangs as well. He is a multimedia creator. He makes gorgeous lamps in plastic. And he also is doing these stunning bowls and vases with his custom G code in 3D printed clay. So tonight we are very excited to welcome Claywoven. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Good to see you all.
Welcome, Jasper.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
Jasper, well, I think what we'll start off with is, I know your work. I'm a new Patreon subscriber, and I've been looking at your assets and all the tools that you've made and your tutorial videos, which are absolutely top notch. But I don't know that much about you as a person. So do you want to start off there?
Okay, so I studied product design about 17 or 18 years ago, and then I got into 3D printing through prototyping, and then through my school I got an exchange year in Singapore, and I came over to Singapore for part of my master's degree and never went home. So now I'm based in Singapore, and I'm doing different things related to product design and 3D printing and experimenting. Oh, I do like the experimenting side of things with Blender and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was experimenting that kind of led you to the clay aspect of it. Is that correct?
Yes, the clay was a bit of a, I don't know, it wasn't intentional. I started off with plastic printing, and then a friend of mine, she had a clay printer, and she was trying to get a project done that she really needed to get finished, and the printer wasn't working, and she was trying to work out how to get it all working in time to finish the project. And I was like, I could probably fix it, because I've played around with control boards, building different sort of printers and like different 3D printer related, control board related things. But I think I could probably take it apart and fix it and find out what's wrong. So I fixed it for her, and then she realized this is a lot of work. She'd much rather me do the printing, and she can concentrate on the other parts of her business. So I took over some of the clay printing work that she had, and we worked together for a while, and that's how I started doing the clay printing. And yeah, and then I realized the clay printing tools at the time were not very helpful for what I wanted to do, because it's got such a wide extrusion. You can't really you can't get anywhere close to a 0.4 nozzle or a 0.8 nozzle with maybe a 0.8 nozzle, but it needs to be 1 or 2 mm wide, and then any imperfections in the start and stop points of a layer line, the seams become really, really visible. So that pushed me into doing the spiralized contour and working out how to get a nice spiralized contour. And that took me down the rabbit hole of geometry nodes and everything like that.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So, hey, just as a heads up, that's the chocolate. When you're printing with chocolate, that was a discovery that I learned from some of the makers, is that it does really well in the spiralized, the vase mode.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Anything like this, it's a really good idea to stick to. It does limit you a little bit in what you can do, but also it's a creative limitation. It means you've got to work with it and try and find different ways to create patterns with the contour and things like that. Yeah.
And make the layer lines part of your design aesthetic. Like,
yes, I think that's important.
It's a feature, not a bug, like the layer lines.
Wow.
Oh, one thing I was going to mention, you introduced me with the tools I use. What you were talking about, Nozzleboss. That's not my tool. I can't take credit for that. Everyone should go and look at Nozzleboss on Instagram, because his account, I mean, his stuff is spectacular as well. He builds his own multi-color tool changing, a head that changes color by rotating to turn the inside color to the outside and back again. So he can do these. He does amazing stuff.
Oh my goodness. I have seen that. I didn't make the connection. It was the same tool. Like, that is amazing.
Yes.
I'm going to put his GitHub in the chat real quick. And we'll see if we could track down his Instagram too. But yeah, sorry to make that clear, but yeah, it's a tool that you get from GitHub that you an add-on that you add into Blender.
Yes.
Wow. And so now is you know, the path to clay extrusion is fraught with all kinds of difficulty. But is the clay extrusion machines that you're using, are they auger machines or are they pressure machines?
I've got a couple of printers. I've never had one that uses compressed air.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a compressor, basically. That was the main reason. And from what I've seen now, the compressor makes it a lot easier because it's lighter on the tool head because you don't need because you need to get the but it's very hard to keep the flow constant because as the clay gets pumped out of the
nozzle,
and the smaller the amount of clay is left, the flow rate keeps fluctuating. It doesn't stay stable. So to try and get a layer line that's exactly the right thickness all the way across is a little bit tricky, I've heard, but I've not actually tried it. I've been using a auger pump, and then it's got a screw in the top, and then it's also got auger motorized pump that pushes the clay through.
Oh, okay.
So it's not too complicated. It's just basically a big piston that pushes the clay out of a large tube, and then a little screw on the top of the nozzle that screws it down and pushes it the last bit out of the.
I see.
The main thing is you've got to try and get the pump as close to the nozzle as possible because a lot of the printers I've seen have had a long tube to connect the clay pump to the end of the nozzle, and it's so much friction. It makes it very, very difficult to pump clay through a small tube. So I've been desperately trying to remove all the tubes from my printers and try and find the fattest one I can get to try and reduce the friction as much as possible. And then you get the problem of the tube expanding and contracting. It's like a Bowden tube. It's like you don't have direct control over it. So you get the same problem of like everything's slightly delayed from the action you wanted to take. So if you can stick it right close to everything right on the if you print all the clay on top of the extruder, that's ideal. But then the extruder weighs a ton because you've got all the clay and the motors and everything. So there's a whole load of things you've got to try. I mean, the best printers I've seen, they've moved the bed and in X and Y, and they only move the head in Z, just so it doesn't. They can lift all the weight of it, all the clay at once, rather than have to slide the nozzle backwards and forwards and left and right as well. So there's different ways of doing it. I don't think anyone's got a perfect solution yet, but it's interesting because it's sort of like rep days of 3D printing still. There's no Bamboo Studio or anything like that to find the easy solution. So if you want to tinker with it, it's quite fun, although it's very hard work and very messy. So setting up, getting the clay into the tubes and cleaning up afterwards, and then you drop it or something like that. It's a lot of work, but it's really interesting.
And then you have to fire. Then you have to fire it. Then you have to glaze it. And then you have to fire it again. Wow.
Yes.
Have you when it comes to your G code, like there's different clays and there's different consistencies. A lot of people like to work with porcelain or stoneware or earthenware, things like that. Do you have a clay medium that you like to work with the most?
I've tried a few different. And I find I use some, I think it's called Laguna stoneware. Laguna B mix is what I've been using, which is pretty good. I've tried porcelain. Porcelain is nice, but it's got this, at least the porcelain I've tried. I haven't tried it enough to be sure that they're all, I've seen other people do it and I'm wondering how they do it, but it's got this weird non-Newtonian property where it becomes solid, and then when you compress it, it becomes more solid, and then you let go and it suddenly collapses slightly.
Really?
It's not, so especially when it's the consistency that you want to pump it out of the pump, and that means that when it's coming out of the extruder, it pushes down at the layer below and gets a little bit more rigid than it would be, and then settles down a bit, and so it makes the end shape a little bit warped, and then it causes stress lines and cracks, and I found it a little bit difficult to get porcelain to work, and that might be because I was trying to push overhangs too hard. Maybe if you kept it a little bit more conventional design, it would work, but I found it a little bit unforgiving. Whereas the stoneware is really nice because, unlike plastic, it stays soft. So if you crash the nozzle through it, you can carry on going quite easily.
Yeah, I have seen that.
When you're doing Z movements, quite often the clay is coming out and the nozzle's going down at the same time, and it's going up again, and so it's pushing slightly into the whatever you're building is being pushed down and up slightly, and especially on a steep overhang, if you haven't got the position exactly correct, you want it to touch the previous layer.
Yes.
But it's overhanging, but it's sort of overhanging slightly. But if you've got clay, because this is all still soft, the clay comes out of the nozzle, it just pushes into it gently, and it sort of all just evens out nicely. So you can get it just sort of it's like just like a bead of whipped cream or something like that. It just pushes out the way and just flows nicely into place. Whereas with plastic, it's already gone hard and it tends to just jam or pop off you can even just a small movement will pop it off the bed even sometimes. So you've got to be much more careful with the plastic movement.
We're talking about with plastic, right? And layered shifts and all that.
Well, that's with porcelain, but yeah. Oh wow. So, so you seems like you've done a lot of trial and error, and I definitely will continue to follow your work with that. But the things that you learned with product design, how did you find yourself getting into Blender and using Blender as your tool for both mediums?
Yeah, through necessity, really. I mean, I never used Blender when I was in. It's not an industry program really used in product design firms at all. Although now for visualization, it's used a lot more. So I'd used it once or twice just to test out the rendering. But all my design work I was doing in SolidWorks and what was it? NX. We used Siemens NX for a bit as well. So it's more mechanical design type things. So we didn't really use Blender at all. But as it got better at rendering, I started thinking, maybe it'd be good to use it for visualizing. And then I started seeing the geometry nodes being built. And over the last 4 or 5 years, geometry nodes have become this this magic tool that it's really hard to get your head around, but it's just really good fun. It's like a combination of like programming or electronics where you put the wires around and you can. It's like almost it's like a puzzle game, except also you're getting work done. It's sort of that's how I feel like.
That's great. Wow, that's great. Have you used the geometry nodes, Vicky, in Blender?
Yeah. So when I did like the headphones, and I did those as like a UV map with the image, and I used geometry nodes to take to fill in color data from the texture map to the vertex. Then I can export it as an OBJ file with the colors that I could import into Bamboo Studio. So, but I'm still very in my infancy of geometry nodes, and I actually, oh my gosh, yeah, I rely very heavily on my notes. So like here, I actually had a printout of like, this is how I set it up, so I remember how to set it up next time. So I have Word documents with my notes of what I did. So, but I think as Jasper's saying, I just need to stay the course with learning it, because the return on investment that you put into learning geometry nodes is just going to pay off in tenfold.
Wow. How would you find the experience of learning the geometry nodes, Jasper? Was it a difficult thing?
I do find it difficult. I'm still struggling. I spent all yesterday struggling with something that I just couldn't understand. I was trying to work out what the nodes were doing, and I couldn't even remember what I did when I hadn't labeled it properly. And
you gotta take your screenshots.
Yes, I've got to take screenshots, take notes. It's really important. And then the instructions on Blender's website is pretty good, but sometimes they're assuming a little bit more knowledge than you have when you start reading it. And you have to go back so much. You have to go back and back through so many pages to find the bit that you don't know. So if you find the bit that you don't know, and then everything else clicks together because you've already read all the rest of the explanations, which to a certain extent you can get like AI chatbots to summarize it, and sometimes they come out.
I was getting ready to ask if you've done the.
I've a little bit, and I found some of them better than others. I think because the geometry node is quite new, the chatbots have got a lot of sort of vague idea about what to do, but they tend to miss they tend to miss important points that they're very, very confident that they can give you the correct answer. Like you read it, like, I've got the answer. And I start doing it. It's like, that doesn't exist. And then, but it's a combination between, if you use the chatbot to try and summarize the web pages that you're reading, and then go back and then Google, and there's usually a video somewhere, although it's not quite as well documented as some processes. But I learned a lot from a channel called, I think it's Erendale. He's a Blender channel that concentrates on geometry nodes, and his stuff is very methodical and very good to follow. He's a much better presenter than I am. I'm all over the place. But his videos are very, very methodical and very, very dense in knowledge as well. So I recommend his channel definitely.
Wow.
Can I ask what chatbots you've tried?
I've tried ChatGPT, which I found very frustrating, and I've tried Grok, which seems to know a bit more technical stuff, but is not very useful. And I was trying Google Gemini yesterday, and that slightly better. And I might have tried. I switched between all of them because I'm impatient with one and I try another one. I've not found any of them so useful that I'd want to pay for it yet. It's useful. They're definitely AIs. That's one of the things Blender's been a bit not scandal, but like the controversy about whether AI should be sponsoring Blender. There was one company, I think it was, I can't remember which one it was now. Was it Anthropic? I don't know. They were starting to sponsor Blender recently last week, and there was a big uproar about whether they should be.
I was going to tell you, for me personally, I've had with Blender troubleshooting or guidance, I've had the best luck with Claude, which is Anthropic's.
Maybe I should try them. I haven't really tried Claude so much, but yeah, it's helpful, but it's not as none of the AI seems as magical as it first looks when you first get a response from it. It seems to know exactly what you're talking about, and then you try and put it into action. It's like, no, you don't really know what you're talking about. You sort of do, but usually the first answer is good, and then you start asking more backup questions, and it gets more and more lost in its own idea of what it should do, and it can't step back from the conversation very easily. So I found I'm always best to step away from. Don't get too involved in the conversation trying to get it to solve your problems. It's easier just to get it to summarize something and then move on and Google it. Basically, I think it's slightly
find actual research or find something on
or sometimes I'll ask it, like my day job is computer programming, or sometimes I'll say, like, this is the behavior I'm seeing, what are some possibilities? And they'll give me the possibilities, and I can research them or vet them myself or whatnot.
Yes.
But
Yes. that
another
definitely
little
works.
thing, I'm not paid by Anthropic or anything like that, but I've noticed that Claude will sometimes tell me something that it says like, I don't know this or I can't do this. Whereas ChatGPT, well, like my mom's 80th birthday party, ChatGPT is like, I can make this video for you for your mom's party, and we get all the way down, and then it's like, oh no, I can't make that. Like you gotta do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
overconfidence in AI is definitely very much there. But you know, Jasper, one thing that I'm picking up on with what you're talking about finding your way through Blender and using clay and then also with plastic 3D printing, which we've got a million questions about, is that it feels like your experience is much more open to the concept of open source or for there's a lot of rat rod community in 3D printing, but a lot of that just got washed away with the big tidal wave of bamboo. How do you feel like you are able to still? How do you still have that? How do you still have the spirit for, innovating and creative? You had one quote in one of your videos that said that the design is still very mechanical and you can't make things artistic. But I feel like here in the States, people find themselves trying to just work with the tools we got versus making their own. So how did you do that? And did Singapore have anything to do with that?
Let me think. I started when I started 3D printing. I had the first 3D printer my work had was one of those MakerBot X2X. I think it was it was like the first one that sort of was consumer and sort of worked, and it was still really expensive and didn't really work. And so then I moved in. Well, I bought my own Ender, like everyone, I think. Bought my own Ender 3, and that was like a revelation back in that was like the first one that could actually almost print something nicely. But it was still so based on open source designs that it was really, really easy to fix and change and adapt. So I got quite into using. I still got one back there. Yeah, and I used them quite a lot. And I wanted to, at that time, there was no easy way to the flow was not very well controlled. Like, not the bamboo printers are very, very good now, and it's like everything comes out beautifully 99% of the time. But with the older printers, there was always stringing. There's always little things going on. So I got really attracted to the idea of doing spiralized contours because it just seemed like the obvious solution to a lot of problems. It's just if it makes a mess every time you remove the switch to start the extrusion and stop the extrusion, just don't do it. Just leave it to one extrusion. So, that seemed to be a function that was being left behind in a lot of the slices. So although I use bamboo printers all the time, and I really like the reliability, and I really like just when I'm designing something in CAD or something like that, and I just wanted to print, I love the new modern printers that work really well. But for the experimenting sort of hobby or artistic side, just realizing what you could do by just limiting yourself to one extrusion profile, one continuous profile, and thinking, well, where can I take it? Where will it actually go? And what tools can I build that can change where it's going to go in different ways? And can you add different functions to the toolpath that will offset it a bit as it's moving along to create different stitch patterns and things like that?
Wow.
So I was playing around with that, and I realized sometimes you really do want a good company to take over something and really make it efficient, and sometimes you want to be able to do something the creativity is in the community and the tools that you can build together, and you can share ideas, and how you can push ideas in different directions that are not necessarily fully commercial, and I find that really fascinating. And and one of the, I suppose the problem is that can you survive to do it? How much time can I put doing this stuff? Because it's really fun, but then if you're it's a lot very time consuming. And like,
Yes.
So I've been sort of playing with like how much time can I spend doing this, and if I built, and I realized I built these tools, and some other people wanted to try them, so I was like, okay, I'll set up a Patreon and see if I can get a little bit of money to help support it. So I like the idea that there is open community tools that are that people can just play with, and in some ways it'd be nice to just give everything away for free. But I think the Patreon idea of saying, okay, I can give you a little bit of money every month, and I can download it, and then I can keep it anyway, and it's not you know, I'm not holding anyone to anything. It's not, there's no one can impose any like restrictions on what people do with it. I think building stuff around Blender is a nice way of keeping things creative and keeping things open and free and a bit more relaxed than other ways of working. That's sort of how I'm thinking at the moment. I don't know. Does that answer what you're saying? I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking.
Yes. And really seems like you were you saw a problem with the stringing and the picking up of the nozzle, and so that put you in the position to really be exploring single wall prints. And then you started thinking about different mathematics in order to make the single wall print maybe more dynamic, more interesting. And you realized how much time you were spending on it. So you wanted to get a little bit of support with that, and also help people to hold on to the information knowledge and grow it themselves, and also probably even contribute back, which is where we were, 5 to 10 years ago with plastic 3D printing. So that's great.
I'm very surprised that you were hitting that spiralized and that vase mode in the plastic before you got to the clay. That's so it's like it was like destiny, right? That you already had that skill set, that mindset, and the jump into the clay.
I was trying really hard to build spiralized contours on a plastic pot I was doing, but I was still doing it in the slicer, and so I was trying to create thicknesses to the material rather than just one spiral. I was trying to create a pattern. So I was cutting, I actually built it in a solid model and cutting out these strips around the solid model to try and create a pattern in it. And the CAD programs really don't like it when you get into that. My laptop kept seizing up. Nothing. It's not really designed for that. I think now there are ways of doing that better. But my first attempt at doing spiralized contours in plastic were very, very laborious. But now the Blender makes that a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. I wouldn't go back to trying to create the patterns I was doing it in SolidWorks, and SolidWorks is not designed for this at all. Yeah.
Wow. So you found the right tool for the job, which is amazing. And so with SolidWorks being able to kind of create the patterns in the walls without creating strips, have you found that it performs at a level that is surprising? What has been the most rewarding thing about this journey with regards to creating patterns single wall for you?
I still feel like there's a lot you can do. I'm amazed about what can be done with just a spiral. I wasn't quite sure how far I could push it to see what could be made, but it seems that like there's a lot of things that you can do, and
right.
I was amazed that when I first started doing that design you were sharing just now with the overhang on print, I was like, is this really working? I was like, I can't believe this is actually working. I don't see this much. I've not seen anything print. Yeah, I mean, this is all printed without support. I was like, oh wow, that's quite fun. That was quite interesting. I was actually shocked myself that it actually worked. So, and there's new things like this one you're showing now. That's not just one spiralized contour. It's actually the same spiralized contour stacked on top of each other. So I export it once, and then I actually go into the code in the VS Code, I think I was using, and they just offset each one by a certain amount. So once I've got it, once I know one of them's working right, I just offset it a few times and print the same thing again and again and again.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's a little bit laborious, but it's fascinating that you can do these things.
You know, I used to. Well, I still have a Delta. I still have a Delta that had it was with 1,000 millimeter Z, 960 millimeter Z, and I was swimming in this water a little bit because the last thing you want to do is print something tall and have it take 3 days. It turns out the colors turn out differently, and it doesn't look at all uniform because of the time differential. And so I was like, okay, well, larger nozzles. I was big into nozzles. I really wanted to explore larger nozzles, and I got a printer that had, I got a nozzle that had a 1 millimeter opening for my hot end, but my extruder couldn't keep up. So, so I'm amazed by the fact that you're able to do those thick nozzles. Are you doing anything larger than 0.8, or is 0.8 where you're at right now?
I've got on my ender, I've got a 1.2 mm nozzle, I think, or it's a 1 mm nozzle. I can't remember now. It's very fat, and that works pretty well. And on the bamboo printers, I've got a 0.8. That's the largest they do at the moment. But yeah, I've had actually the bamboo printers can cope quite well with a wide nozzle. They seem to be able to. They've got strong enough motors. But I've had similar problems with, especially the old the 16-bit boards. The what they call the ramp boards. The ones based around Arduinos. Those tend to. It's not so much sometimes they're underpowered. But also, especially if they're only 12 volts, it's very, very difficult to get enough power to push a large extruder. But also the speed with which they can cope with the code, because there's a lot of movements going backwards and forwards. It ends up filling up the buffer on the board very, very fast, and so it starts printing okay for about one layer, and then it gives up. And so I've found the 32-bit boards. I've got really into using the duet boards. They're really nice one-stop solution that you can just get working, and they're very, very nicely documented, and their forums are very good. So I've been quite keen on them. I haven't used there's a sort of, I'm trying to remember what it's called.
There was another 32-bit board out there, but
yeah,
the Duet has really outstripped everything.
Duet's very good. I do like them. I was thinking of there's the system where you run a Raspberry Pi, and then it controls a smaller board afterwards.
I know which one you're talking about now. Yes, yeah. I'll remember it after the show.
Anyway, that one I've not tried yet, but I've been trying to build different things. Clipper, that's the one. Yes, Clipper.
Yes.
I've never used Clipper. I keep meaning to give it a go. If I build something, maybe I will use Clipper one day. But I've been sticking with duet boards. So like when I'm playing around with I've been customizing printers a little bit. I generally use duet boards because they're slightly, at least they're all the documentation's in one place, and the forums are quite good. Yeah. They're a little bit expensive.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
So do you have? Go ahead, Vicky.
Oh, okay. Well, he was talking about the stacking of the spiralized mode. I think this was another example where you stacked to get the legs.
Yes. This was a fun little thing. I just tried this. I think it was last week or the week before. That one failed, but I did get it right in the end. So the bowl is created in one spiralized contour, and then each leg is another one just added on top, which is, I realized one of the things I could do, and I just realized how to do this when I made this bowl, was that you can use the shrink wrap modifier in Blender to shrink wrap one piece of G code down onto the other piece of G code, so you can get it to follow the contour of the previous one. So even though the legs are not, up until then, I'd always done the base sitting right on the top of the bowl underneath it, because at least I could be sure that was flat and level. But on these ones, I put in the legs on the sides, and I realized you could use the shrink wrap to just pull it down nicely, and you just adjust it. There's a little, you can adjust it a little bit to make sure that it fits correctly. But it's much simpler than I thought it would be. I thought I'd be adjusting it by hand to try and get it to line up nicely. But there's always a tool in Blender to do stuff that you didn't realize.
One thing that he has in his videos and all his assets is he has, I think you have a little a model of the A1 Mini, the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini nozzle. So you can see
Yes.
where you could get an idea when it's doing these things, if it's going to hit the other part of your print. So you can kind of gauge that.
Yeah, this is one of the things you've got to really watch out for when you're telling the printer to do stuff that it wasn't expecting. It'll quite willingly crash into your print without any warning whatsoever. So you've got to always move the print head around and try and judge where it's gonna where it could potentially crash. You've always got to remember to switch on the travel moves preview in the slicer. When you slice the G code, then open it in G code preview, and then switch on travel moves, because there's on the first time you do it, it's almost always you forget one travel move that will be slicing through the print, and you add an extra Z movement to lift it up and across and back down again, and that you can solve it by hand just opening up the text editor. But it's you just got to make sure you check.
Wow. And so you manipulate G code in real. You manipulate G code from Blender. Is that right?
So yeah, what I do is I start off with the Nozzleboss plugin, which is a plugin for converting a G code, for converting data in Blender into G code, and that takes an edge created in Blender. Well, it takes a ribbon created in Blender, so it's a ribbon of surface. Should I share the screen a bit? And then
yeah, sure. I was going to pull up my little project, but yours is probably better.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, take off the solidify. So
full screen here. There you go.
So if you can see, this is just one continuous spiral, and what Nozzleboss's plugin does is it takes this spiral and it takes the height of the ribbon and uses that to set the flow rate, so that you can adjust the flow rate depending on the thickness of the line you're printing. So I use that basic exporting functionality that it'll just take any ribbon you make, as long as it's created in a logical order, and it'll export it as G code. And then I use geometry nodes to create the ribbon, basically. So once I know I need to create a ribbon, I'm just using Blender, thinking how can I use Blender to create that ribbon. So what I've got in this version is it's a spline that is the edge of the
I see it.
pot I want to make, and you can just drag it out, and it'll make that spiral. So the work I was doing in geometry nodes is trying to work out how logically you can convert this one spline here into an extrusion, into a ribbon that will follow the shape of the design you want to make. So it's quite simple now how you can build something quite complex quite quickly. I'm having a lot of fun playing with it because it's, if you see these rather than when you slice an object, I'll try and show you. If I pull it down like that, if I was to slice this shape, even with spiralized contour in a slicer, as it gets to this top bit here, it's still keeping the slices roughly the same distance apart. Well, you can have variable layer height now as well, but it's still keeping those layers vertically the same distance apart, where on this one I'm keeping them the same distance from each other rather than the same distance vertically. So as they curve around the surface like that, they are staying the same distance apart. So they're always sticking to each other. And that means that's how you can get a very extreme overhang, because it's always this, as long as you've got these layer lines roughly the right distance apart, they'll always stick to each other no matter where you drag the no matter where you drag this, they're always going to be
the same distance.
Sticking. Yeah, they're always going to be the same distance from each other. So it's quite reliable. It's not 100% reliable. You've still got to test things, but it creates patterns. It creates shapes that what have I done there? I've deleted that one.
Have you seen the wave overhangs yet, Lawrence?
The wave overhangs?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that, where it's starting at a corner of your overhang and just doing like little ripples, waves out. So each line is touching another line for support.
Yeah.
Yes,
this looks like
I
a really
saw that in
interesting
one of Clay's videos. I mean, Jasper's videos. Sorry. Yes. How did you come up with that idea?
Wave overhang? I know the wave overhangs are not me. I don't think.
Oh, they're not. Then I have not
no,
seen the wave overhang yet. No, not yet.
Wave overhangs, I've been following that as well. It's a new feature that I haven't tried it yet, but it's a.
Oh, in the Orca, it's an Orca slicer, I think, right?
Yeah, I've not tried it yet. It basically follows the same principle I'm using, but does it automatically, and it always builds. So it lets you be able to build a complete flat overhang by just, rather than trying to print the outline of the surface and then filling it in, which obviously doesn't work with an overhang. It just builds it up slowly from the edge until it becomes the shape it wants, and then builds up from there. So that looks like a really good tool. I've not tried that. But
grabbed the first video I could find.
Wow. But
it's like they'll explain it's like a droplet like that you see in the water that it ripples out, that they'll try to. Oh my gosh. Anyways, we don't have to
like the Drew loop trees that used to be around. Where you
well, this is kind of a fail. I think what they're showing is so this was like the inspiration, like little droplets through it, and then what it'll do is it'll just start in one corner and just kind of curve out further and further and further until they. So here, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
You can see the lines. Do I need to zoom in more?
No.
Okay.
Wow.
But yeah, you can see like it kind of curves back and forth in a way to.
Yeah, this is very similar to what I'm doing, except I'm sort of doing it a little bit more manually than they've automated it. But when I'm doing it, I can poke it however I want. Like you can even go. What I've found is quite interesting is you can even go slightly down. So it's like the overhang's no longer horizontal, but it's actually going slightly. As long as there's clearance for the nozzle, you can actually go slightly down, which is you've got to be a little bit careful because the nozzle tends to hit the previous layer. But if you create a little backwards and forwards movement in how the nozzle moves at the same time as going round, the little backwards and forwards movement just means it can just sort of like build up a little extra material on the edge of the surface
to get a little texture.
Yeah. So
that's so sweet.
I haven't got an example of that. I've got a bowl I made where it's actually it's three-legged bowl, but instead of having the legs stuck on afterwards, it comes over, and then the legs are the high points. The three legs are the high points of the object, and then it dips back down again and comes back up, and it's all printed without support. I did that in clay as well. I think I've got a video on my YouTube where it's not a very good video. I did it a year ago, or maybe older now, and it was not a very good video. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm not an expert video creator really, but I think I did make a video about that one. There's a whole lot you can do with pushing how far you can get the overhang.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. You're making me think about getting my Delta back out again and making something happen.
Yeah, definitely. Because
deltas kind of lend themselves to being able to kind of be able to do overhangs, and you can have the hot end give you much more space to be able to do even more drastic drops if you can manage it, if physics will allow.
Yeah, I would really, I've always been put off the idea of deltas just because they seem quite delicate to get correct. But presumably now with like mesh bed leveling and all these things, you could probably get a good delta. But having everything come down from the top rather than because the gantry is also a problem. You could always smash things into the gantry. But if you've got the nozzle, everything controlled from the top going down, you could really get some interesting non-planar movements, especially if you can get the cooling fan out of the way. That's always the problem I've got at the moment, is trying to get
bamboo,
I want to see if I could build a cooling fan that's connected with like bendy straws down, so that they can sort of be pushed out of the way slightly and minimize the angle that you can go down at. But I haven't tried that yet. That's another thing I'm meaning to try.
Well, I mean, you know, with your design skill, you can definitely design something that will get you there.
Probably. I got to get it's all about what I can manage to do next. There's always interesting ideas. There's so many things I want to do, but at the moment, I really like pushing these geometry nodes as far as I can. There's still a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to experiment with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're working on a new tool right now, you said?
Oh yeah, actually, this was it's not that. Should I switch back to my screen? So on this, up until recently, I've had just I've been doing the spiralized contour, but I haven't actually had a base. So before now, if I'd wanted a base on the bottom of the pot, I'd either slice that separately and put it at the beginning of the start code of the G code, or I had a spiral, but it was not working. I had a base, but it was a one-off base that I'd built, and I always built all my pots on the same base. But I've been trying to make a base setting on my builder, so now I can add base, and if I add a base, it continues the spiral down onto the base, which is it's quite nice because the spiral goes round in one direction, then goes back round in the other direction. The layer lines don't entirely overlap, so they sort of cross over each other a little bit, meaning that there's no rings. It doesn't create a ringed surface, because especially with the clay, as it shrinks, the rings become weak points, and it tends to pull apart slightly if you're not very careful. Because if you just do a ring, there'll be one ring there, and then another ring there, and another ring there, and each one's
I can see
the
that
gap
happening.
between them doesn't really work. Whereas this, because it's a continuous spiral like this, they're just slightly overlapping, so it works quite nicely. The trouble with the spiral is you've got it starts off like that. If it's an even spiral, it always has this bit here, which that doesn't fill in the full
not
surface.
connected.
So I had to try and get it to reduce the flow as it gets to the end, which it's not too complicated, but it just took me some time to get working. So I'm quite pleased with this. Now I can build things, and now I can build proper vases, not just tubes. So that makes it slightly more useful and it's much faster. It was quite hard work to build an item that's got a base, because I had to slice it first. I was slicing it and then offsetting the G code that I'm going to put on top of it by the height of the item I've sliced, and then put the two G code files together and make sure that it all works. Now, as long as it's a simple base, it works pretty well. And I've tested it with, let me, 1 second.
Oh, sure.
This was my tests I was doing.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, where am I?
Oh no, I hope you didn't break it.
So I've even this is a ceramic part.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It's printing really, really nicely. It's really, really nice and clean. I'm really, really pleased with this. And it's even the base, when you squish it, it doesn't over extrude. This is one of the things I was trying to get to work nicely, is that you've got when you squish the geometry in, I need to also make sure that the layer lines that are being squished in are also reducing the flow rate by the same amount they're being squished in by.
Oh my goodness.
I'm quite pleased with that. It's like it's taken me a week or so to get working. So that's the thing I'm excited about at the moment. Maybe it's a little bit geeky, just trying to build spirals all day.
Wow.
But yeah.
Do you dream? You dream in spirals, maybe.
Yeah.
I do sometimes. I've woken up in the middle of the night thinking, oh, that's what that geometry node does. Somehow your brain, you can stare at it all day and you get sucked into a little thing trying to go over the same loop again and again, and you go to bed and you sleep for a bit and you wake up in the middle of the night, it's like, oh, I was looking at it the wrong way, and now it works.
Wow.
So yeah, it does get into your dreams and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Jasper, what kind of things are you what kind of things you're producing these clay objects? You've got the lamps, and you've got the overhangs, and you have your Patreon. Tell us about how are you doing this, like the business aspect of what you're doing? Like maybe somebody might be interested.
Well, so the business aspect is trying to work out how much I can include what I really love doing as part of the business, because I've been doing product design for other companies, working in other companies doing product design for most of my career anyway. And now, since I've started doing projects with other people a little bit here and there when something matches what we're trying to do. So I've been doing, whether it's trying to work out whether what I'm doing works with different materials, like we're doing it with clay, or we've been thinking whether can you do it with concrete? There might be something we can do with concrete. So I've been wondering about that. So every now and then there's companies that come up that say, oh, I really need something that's similar to what you're doing. So I try and see if there's any projects that I can do that kind of thing to bring in some more substantial projects. And then I've been doing some teaching as well. I've been doing some workshops at a local college, so I've been doing that as well. I do lots of different bits and pieces at the moment. I didn't expect to get as much support as I got when I first started putting out the geometry nodes that I built. And so when it first started, I was not really focused on pushing it as far as it could go, because I needed to find actual work to do rather than just do the creative stuff. But as other people get more interested in it, I thought, okay, if other people are interested in it, I definitely should push it as well. I need to make sure I can deliver the most useful tools that I can. So I've been trying to make sure every single week I get out an improvement or an update or a new tutorial or something like that, just because it seems there's I've managed to get a few people support me, and I thought if they're going to support me, I really need to make sure I'm giving something back in return. So I've been focusing last few months. I've been focusing a lot stronger on making the tools work better and making it clearer how to use them. So I've been putting up more video tutorials and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as business, it's a mixture between seeing if anything I'm doing matches what other people need, and then other unrelated stuff to do with anything like just conventional 3D printing or design or prototyping and stuff like that. I still do bits and pieces like that as well. But I'm trying to push this as far as I can because it's so fascinating.
You're definitely,
and that seems to be your brand, like pushing these overhangs, pushing all of this as far as you can. While you're talking about your tutorials, I do just want to chime in that I got to spend a most fascinating Friday night. I subscribed to Jasper's Patreon, and I just started watching his videos. And one thing that's great is, even if you don't know Blender, like, you do a good job of introducing it at the you know, like, oh, here's how you go to object mode and here's how you go to edit mode. And I've been using Blender for what, 12 years, and I was learning things right and left in Jasper's videos, like quick favorites. I didn't know you could do quick favorites.
Oh no, the quick favorite is really good, isn't it? I keep learning these new things as well, and I quite often when I put them in the video, it's only because I've learned them literally last month, and I was like, I've suddenly realized there's another tool I've got to talk about, because Blender is amazing. It's got so many things, and you can never learn them all. At least you got to take it step by step, because it's so much stuff. I have never got into animation or all that other side of Blender's tools. I've never managed to use.
Oh, that was another thing you taught me, that you could hide that little timeline that you don't need if you're not doing animation.
Yes.
Always just left it.
That took me a long time to realize. For the first 6 months of using Blender, I had to just close it down every time the windows got adjusted. I could never work out how to remove and put them back in the correct position. I just close it down or reset the window. I couldn't get my head around how to rearrange the windows properly. But now, I think they made it easier a few editions ago. Now you can right-click on any window, get on the gap between two windows, and expand it or contract it. It's a little bit easier to get your head around. It used to be you used to drag it in from the corner, and there was no indication what you were doing until it had been done, and then you suddenly had an extra window that was not where you wanted it. But yeah, there's a lot to learn with Blender. I really enjoy it. I hope my tutorials are good. I'm getting better at it. I think I look back at some of the earlier ones, and they were slightly. I was assuming things in my mind that other people hadn't heard, and so I was like, okay, you've got. I was like, you're not in. But the starting position hasn't been set out properly yet, so I'm trying to get back and be more methodical about it, and try and really take it one step at a time, so people can step into it slowly. And even if you haven't used Blender before, I do try and go over the interface and say, right, this is what this does, this is what this does, and try and as you're saying, get rid of the bits that you're not going to use, so that you don't end up clicking on screens that are really irrelevant to what you're doing. And there's always a reset button in Blender. You can always reset it to the standard layout again. But
original layout. I've got one more question for you, Jasper, because I know we're past the. But have you ever heard of something called velocity printing?
Velocity printing? No, what's that?
Velocity printing is when you can speed up the rate at which a plastic extrudes, and that if between going slower or faster, it'll actually change color on the surface of the print. Yeah, velocity printing. Look it up.
Interesting.
Yeah, velocity printing is a lot of fun.
That would be
it seems like that'd be
trying.
something that would add a tremendous amount of depth to what you're doing, especially if you're doing single wall. I'm not sure if you've ever been in a situation where you thought, wow, I wish I could kind of, besides the geometry, make the surface dynamic in a number of ways. Velocity printing will definitely get you there.
That would be really interesting, actually.
I didn't think it was possible, but apparently just adding speed will give you a parallel to the spectrum of colors. Slower is warmer, and faster is bluer or colder. Yeah,
that would be really fun. I have noticed with Clear Pet G, you can change the clarity of it by how fast you make it cool. So if you cool it very slowly, it tends to it gets much clearer. And then if you switch the fan on, it will start going cloudy. And I was playing around with that effect. See, can I make different bits cloudy and different bits clear? So that's a similar idea, of like changing how the cooling process and the temperature. I'll have to explore. There's so much stuff to experiment with, isn't it? It's so great.
Blender probably already have something for that. You just haven't found it yet.
It's you always have to, there's so many ideas out there, and you have to pick the ones that you focus on.
You want to stick with.
Yeah, that's something that's the way Nozzleboss exports its G code. It uses the color data to adjust the flow rate or the print speed. So actually, just even with basic paint tool, you could actually very easily just paint on the bits that you want to print slower or print faster, and have an experiment.
This is from the GitHub right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay. Yes. So that's one color there.
I think he's doing it with, he's changing the extrusion rate, or is he changing the speed?
It looks like he's changing the speed. Yeah, there it is. Mike Whedon's velocity painting, except you can use Blender's vortex colors to get the color onto the model, which is quite convenient. Yeah.
Yeah. You know
Man,
even though
I stumbled across velocity printing, like, I hope I'm not exaggerating, 9 years ago, and I was really fascinated by it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I've not tried this at all. I really need to give this a go. It would be a very good addition to what I'm doing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Now we both learned something from each other, which is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, do you have any other questions, Vicky?
Oh my gosh, I have my mind's a buzz, and
Go.
But no, it's fine because I know we've been doing over an hour. But are you? I think you mentioned earlier before the show, Jasper, that you feel like sometimes you're working in a silo, and it's nice to see community acceptance of your.
This is something I think there is a 3D printing community in Singapore, although it seems like a lot of the stuff's happening either in Europe or America. We tend to, I don't know, I think maybe everyone's working very hard here. It's time to experiment is a little bit limited, and then space is limited as well. So the maker spaces tend to not last very long. They set up and then they run out of funding, and it doesn't. The community college, the maker spaces in the colleges, they tend to work, but then they're mostly aimed at the students from that college, so they're not necessarily public. So I've got involved with a college where I've done a few workshops for their students and staff, but public spaces I've not had that much experience. So it's really nice to have people online to chat about and to see what other people are doing online. You can't always do everything in person, and there there'll be some comments under this saying, yes, we're in Singapore, and I really hope so. I hope there's some people in Singapore I can connect with after doing this. But it's nice to be able to meet up with people across the world and see what other people are doing. I really am grateful to be able to do that. It's really nice to find other people who are interested in similar stuff.
Well, we're good. Well, we're glad we could be those people to talk with you online, and we also revisit with folks in December. So
that's true. Yep.
We'll be talking again
a year end, and we'll catch up with you, see how you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll just, I said it in the email, but anytime you find yourself in the States and want to come to 3D Printopia or Rocky Mountain Rip Rap Festival or Orange County Maker Fair, we have all these events, and I think everybody would love to have you.
They would go crazy.
I will definitely do my best to come over at some point. I really love to come visit America. It's hopefully when oil prices are lower and the flights are cheaper, maybe I'll manage to come. I'll definitely do it one day. It's on my bucket list of things to do, to come to one of these festivals in America. So hopefully I'll see you in person one day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And in the meantime, we have online. So
absolutely
great.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess we're kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go ahead and do our little spiel here, which is How Would You Slice That? We air live on Tuesdays that are prime numbers, or in Jasper's case, it's Wednesday morning in Singapore. And I think we didn't mention yet, but this is now our fourth continent of guests. So we've had guests from North America, we have guests from Australia, we've had guests from Europe, and now we have Asia. Next Prime Tuesday is going to be May 19th, and we're going to be joined with an Australian, with Steph Piper, the Maker Queen. Again, I thank everybody who's come and spent your Tuesday night or your Wednesday morning with us. Thank you, chat, for being here and helping support us, and Jasper and his learning about his work. And I forgot to hold on, let's hide this and just put up his website for you.
Yes.
So you could go to claywoven.com. You can find him on Instagram as well and YouTube. He has a Patreon, but yeah, if you just need a place to start, just start that Instagram and just start scrolling down. And I think you'll be like me and just get captivated about what he's doing in his work and the beautiful things that he's able to make with just G code. And Jasper, thank you for taking a chance on a complete stranger and joining.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's great to meet you both.
Yes.
Great meeting you too. We look forward to talking to you again, seeing more of your work. This is it's innovative, next level stuff, and we're really glad
And
to be
it's
able to talk with you.
definitely been inspiring me, and my kids are very happy with this new inspiration, Lawrence, because I'm testing Jasper's G-code stuff on the Cocoa Press. So I'm not there yet, but it's still like completely delicious. The kids will still devour it. And
Yes, yes.
yeah.
What a fantastic way to make mistakes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the best place to fail. All right. Well, everyone, hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks, and Jasper, we'll keep in touch with you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone.
See you soon.